All right, welcome to Big Facts. Good morning, 11 a.m. almost, 7 to the hour on Super Bowl Sunday. So much to talk about, and not just the Super Bowl today, Justin. So a lot going on in the NFL, but I like the fact that on Super Bowl Sunday, we see you in a Philadelphia Eagles shirt, and we're representing here, and Tom Brady's dad is somewhere in Chicago watching this game, so brings back memories. How you feeling today, bud?
I'm excited. So for Justin, I know that you're on vacay. So for
Yeah.
Justin, where Justin lives, we just got about 15 inches of snow
Uh-huh.
on Monday. And right now there's about 4 or 5 on the ground. And who the fuck knows how much more to come because we're already past what they estimated. So it's a nice snowy February day, and it feels like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm super pumped that I'm not there, and I was super pumped I wasn't there last week for that. So, I'm in a little mini vacation right now. Hilton Head Island's beautiful. If anybody has never been here, first time down, and enjoying it. 55 and sunny today, 32 and snowy up there. Love it, but I don't want to shovel. A lot of breaking news last couple of days. A lot of good basketball games. The Lakers played last night. LeBron comes up big in double OT. The Sixers play last night. Pretty much have a lead the whole fourth quarter against the Nets. Watched the highlights of that game. Didn't get to watch it live, but had like a 10-minute highlight section. So we'll get to that later. We'll get to the Super Bowl later. But there are reports, and I want to pick your brain, my guy, because you're listening to sports radio all the time up there. The way this whole thing's playing out is weird to me. I'll explain why it's weird to me, but when the Bears, it was suggested that the Bears were coming after Wentz. I think the first thing I said to you when I called you was like, well, if Wentz is going to the Bears, they're not going to be able to keep Foles there, so Foles has to be coming back, right? And you lost it for a second, but then thinking about it, it's like that's the way to make money work.
It makes sense.
So let's break this down. He's probably coming back if it's the Bears. I can't imagine they're going to have a $35 million guy and a $25 million guy on the roster in the QB room who they can't even really trust at this point. And then the Colts are said to be involved, but it sounds like the Eagles are asking for too much, and that hasn't been that trigger hasn't been pulled on that. But Schefter's reporting the deal's ready to go, and they're going to announce it after the Super Bowl. What do you make of it?
So here's what happened in Philadelphia sports when this went down. In live time, Andrew Salchunas has a show on Saturday nights on the Fanatic here in Philadelphia. And they've got that new John Kincaid fella from Atlanta that came back home who does their morning show. And he's been pretty much nationally recognized for the last 10 years. Most people know who he is in sports. So because of the people he's brought to the station, literally 8 minutes after Schefter's story broke, they had Schefter on the show.
Okay.
So I listened to Adam Schefter live when it happened and heard what his opinions were. So one of the questions that Salchunas asked him was, what is the compensation that we're expecting?
Right.
So Schefter reported it was a 2-team race at Chicago and Indianapolis. The Eagles sources he has say that they expect at least a Matthew Stafford type package. The league sources say that the value being placed on Wentz amongst certain organizations is just that they should be able to accomplish that. So I saw the rumor that you showed me last night. It was Nick Foles, Tariq Cohen, and a first for Carson in a second.
Right.
There's a couple of problems with that scenario to me. That is in no way, shape, or form a Matthew Stafford package. That is not close to a Matthew Stafford package. Now, Tariq Cohen is intriguing. It gives you a pass-catching option out of the backfield. Miles Sanders can just run downhill. Right. Nick Foles is the hometown hero who had a statue built way too fucking fast.
Yeah.
And you're getting another number 1 pick to fill out some holes on this roster. I think that the Colts package, because they technically, as of today, do not have a quarterback on the roster. Jacoby Brissett's a pending free agent. Phillip Rivers just retired. I think the package you see from the Colts is probably more along the lines of the Matt Stafford package.
Yeah.
2 1s, 2 3s, something like that. I believe that is going to be not only where Carson wants to go play. I think he likes John DeFilippo, but everybody knows the relationship he made with Frank Reich when he was here. I think that's Carson's ultimate goal. And I think the Colts would give up. I mean, the Colts are in a unique position, right? The Bears are clearly better with a better quarterback, right? There's no doubt. They're a playoff team. They have a really good defense.
Yeah.
But the Colts are really a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender.
Team, right. Mm-hmm.
That is the difference in these two trades. And I think that is why the Colts inevitably will give up the package that they want. Now, I will tell you an intriguing thing that's happened that you haven't been here to listen to.
Okay.
For the last 3 weeks with the Carson Wentz rumor mill, and once they hired Sirianni, everybody was okay moving on from Carson if you got the right deal. Now that it's been made real, every host in Philadelphia sports yesterday, every show I listened to, oh, they're giving up on him a year too soon.
Yeah.
Oh, they should have given him a shot with Nick Sirianni. And here's my only question to you, and I want to know if you agree. Wouldn't it make more sense if you really have value in Carson Wentz that will amount to a couple of first-round draft picks now? What if you give him a shot with Nick Sirianni and he looks as bad or worse as he did in the 2020 season? Now you've given up all that compensation. Cut bait and run. The guy doesn't want to play here. We don't want him.
All right, so there's, I think, something a little bit wrong and a little bit right with both of these scenarios, with both of these teams. And there are some insiders, Justin, reporting that the Eagles are saying the Colts have that type of offer on the table, but the Colts don't because they think it's too much. Now, I can't imagine, and I'm not sure who to believe, but I lean towards they have a good package on the table because, they were the favorite. People have to remember, they were the favorite to get Stafford. And the Rams plucked Stafford with a huge deal that took it right from Indy. Indy doesn't have a quarterback, and Indy has a Super Bowl roster right now.
And from my understanding, that little piece that got sprinkled on was that extra first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
So I think that's overvaluing Wentz right now based on how he performed last year. But I think that the Colts are the one team that's in position to do that.
And would overpay. They need that. That is their one position of need.
Because then they're hinging basically their whole hopes on trying to pry Deshaun Watson from the Texans, and that's not happening either.
And if you didn't want to give up 2 firsts for Carson Wentz or Matt Stafford, you're sure as shit not giving up 4 or 5 for Deshaun Watson.
Right. So the problem I have with the Bears thing is Foles is the person that makes the money work. You're still getting that huge cap hit this year unless they work out something else in the financials. But my problem is, so now Jalen Hurts looks like he's your future if you're trading Wentz away, and you're bringing back the guy that you built a statue of and won you a Super Bowl a couple years ago. And as soon as Jalen Hurts has a couple bad games, everybody's going to be like, put Foles in. And it's going to be the same fucking thing. So if I'm an Eagles fan and I'm trying to develop Jalen Hurts and I'm trying to develop or see what I'm doing with Carson Wentz, the worst rumors that I can have is that Nick Foles is supposed to come back from the Chicago Bears. Like he's going to rejuvenate his career again. We have to remember, guys, I know he won us a Super Bowl. He had 2 good games. They were all-time games, but he had 2 good games, and he hasn't done it anywhere else. And now we're expecting a 38-year-old offensive coordinator to be able to coach these guys up in the QB room with a brand-new QB room, a brand-new offensive coordinator, and we want the guy with the statue out. The guy with the statue outside the building is the backup. Okay.
And it's really the only way that this situation gets worse is that Nick Foles' storyline is replaced with Carson Wentz. It's the worst. So
Same thing.
You just made a statement. I want to talk about Jalen Hurts for a second before we move on from the Eagles, because I know we got a lot of shit to get to today.
Yeah.
I heard a breakdown of Jalen Hurts' 2020 season that really struck me. And I went back and I watched last night. If you break down Jalen Hurts' 4 games, right? So he had a half against Green Bay. He had 2 complete games, and then he had the throwaway week because we were going to lose in week 17. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
If you look at his stats, not only his stats, but if you go back and watch the tape of those games, he had 1 bad half that he was bad, that he was just atrocious. And I'm not ready to anoint Jalen Hurts. I mean,
you're talking about the first half. You're talking about the first half of the Washington game, right?
Right, exactly. I'm ready to commit to Jalen Hurts could be but I'm not ready to say that he isn't, and I'm not ready to say that he is.
I agree.
I am of the mindset, and this is just me, and we'll talk about this obviously in the coming weeks more. If you're at number 6 and Justin Fields is on the board, I say pick him if you've traded Carson Wentz. That is the side of the fence I'm on. Now, that's a conversation for another day, but all this Jalen Hurts can't be the guy now. We have no fucking idea what this team will be. There is going to be so much change in this team. Your entire offensive line, maybe minus Brandon Brooks, will be new if Brandon Brooks gets healthy again. You know, Jason Kelsey might retire. Lane Johnson gets hurt 4 snaps into a fucking game because he's done so many steroids, his ligaments can't hold together.
Yeah.
There's so much change in this team. And I think Jalen Hurts is a guy that's got the ability. If you have the potential to add Jamar Chase and then use whatever first-round pick you get from Wentz on a defensive back or a linebacker, and you start to build this roster out, you don't need Jalen Hurts to be Russell Wilson. And when I look at Jalen Hurts' 2020 season, I see Kyler Murray's rookie season. I see Lamar Jackson's rookie season. He had a bad half, but otherwise he was a B+, A-. So not a great, but a good quarterback.
He sparked the offense better than Wentz. Statistically, they were like right on par with each other. And the other issue was he did fumble a lot in the same way. Now, the reason I like Jalen Hurts is because of the improvements I've seen year after year from Alabama to Oklahoma into his rookie year, sparking the offense, getting a win over the Saints. Like, that was a big win. Like, let's not pretend that was an easy thing to do last year as a rookie quarterback in your first game beating the Saints. Once they get some tape on you as defensive coordinators, it's going to be a little bit harder. But I'm not convinced that Jalen Hurts is better than Carson Wentz. I just obviously think the fan base at this point is running him out. The front office doesn't seem to want him there. I actually believe more than probably you do, and it's just something I've created in my head. And listening to Rob Matty a little bit, who's been obviously, a huge Wentz defender, and he's come out often. He's like, listen, I know all these reports are coming out and the media is painting this picture, but Carson Wentz has literally said nothing. And his agents literally said nothing that we know of publicly, because I don't think it helps or hurts them. I just think it doesn't make any sense for any of them to do that. But if you're the backup, you're not supposed to be talking like that anyway. And he is the backup right now. I don't like any of these trade scenarios with the Bears. And I also think if you would want Nick Foles back in a package, maybe, if you're also planning on drafting another quarterback so that you have a veteran presence in the room, but it creates this crowded quarterback room and you still have an issue. You have no if you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback.
Right. So you just mentioned something about money work again. I wrote this down when you said it the first time. What's going to happen here is they are going, whether it's Indianapolis or Chicago, Howie Roseman's a fucking attorney, guys. Like, I don't know why we forget this about this guy. He's so bad at football because he's a fucking lawyer. That's what he does. And not only is he a lawyer, he's a financial lawyer. This is what he does. What's going to happen? Carson Wentz is going to voluntarily void his contract with the Eagles, which will erase the cap hit. And what's going to happen is the cap hit for the trade exception, the $15 million, the $18 million, whatever they hit them with, when he goes to Indianapolis, part of that trade is going to be $18 million in cash coming back to wipe out Carson Wentz's cap hit. The reason that this trade has not been done yet is because that is what they're figuring out. They know the assets they're getting. They know as much as Chicago's going to give them. They know as much as Indianapolis is going to give them. And insert here any other team, right? They know what the offers are on the table. Now it's figuring out the money. And this is the reason why Howie Roseman still exists in this franchise. Jeffrey Lurie knows at the end of the day, no matter how bad the player is, he's not going to cost him money. That is what Howie Roseman does. And that's what they're still ironing out right now. No doubt. I've staked my life on it. They're trying to figure out how to write that cap hit down to as little as possible because of how bad they are in the cap right now, dude. There's so many bad contracts.
Do you think that the Colts can win do you think Carson Wentz is going to go somewhere and revive himself?
Yes.
I do too.
I think that there are 3 places he can go and instantaneously be a better player. And I think that's New England with Bill Belichick. I think that's Chicago with John DeFilippo. And I think mostly it's Frank Reich in Indianapolis. Because, again, that team is just So fucking
and New England's not going to be in on bidding. They're
no
not.
way.
They're not. They don't throw
play
their
that game.
assets away.
New England probably called Howie Roseman and said, "This is our offer. Don't call us unless you want it." That's how they operate their franchise.
Yeah.
Those three places, Carson Wentz is instantaneously better. If he goes to Indianapolis with that defense that's so young, a rookie running back that's probably going to be close to the top of the league in all-purpose yards next year.
Yeah.
The offensive line that they've made, the defensive front that they've got, that team is going to be a problem, which is going to take a lot of the pressure off Carson Wentz.
And there's no diva. There's no diva guys there either. There's T.Y. Hilton who gets hurt. There's a bunch of younger guys. One of the guys that got drafted last year, I forget his name. He was on our wide receivers board. Ended up looking pretty good towards the end of the year as well. I forget who it was.
But I'll tell you this, if the question is, if Carson goes to Indianapolis, can Indianapolis go to the Super Bowl that year? If that was the question you asked me, I would tell you that the chances are a little bit better than a coin flip. I'd say 55, 45, 60, 40, where, yes, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, people have to remember he had a bad season, but your talent doesn't just go away. It's not gone. There's going to be someone. There's going to be someone.
This is the bullshit they're saying on the radio is, oh, we're trying to ship him out after one bad season. Because if you do look at him year over year, 2020 sticks out like a fucking sore thumb, bad season. But we've talked about this countless times on our show. It's been a steady regression that we can see because we watch it day after day, week after week.
Because it's obvious when you watch him, there's plays, like those couple plays a game where you're like, he's there. He's in there somewhere.
Right.
But like, why isn't it consistent?
And I think Rob Motti makes a great point, dude, when he comes out and says, and he said this, I think I probably liked this tweet 7 times in the last 6 weeks. Carson Wentz was not the problem. Doug Peterson was not the problem.
Right.
The problem, the source of the problem still exists, and it's Howie Roseman's relationship with Jeff Lurie. That's the problem.
So I had been thinking about this because I saw that tweet, and I think I shared it as well, and it was getting shared almost virally within the local Philadelphia market. And a question popped into my mind. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, right, because they already got rid of Doug Peterson. So let's pretend for a second that the first thing the Eagles did was fire Howie Roseman. Like Lurie was like, he's the problem. Howie Roseman's gone. Are they even thinking about trading Carson Wentz right now?
Well, so that's a great question. I think yes, because I don't know if you remember at the beginning, right after they were eliminated from the playoffs, and we started talking about this offseason, I said that I wanted Howie Roseman gone, as did you. We saw that as the source of the problem. Yeah. But when we started to talk about Carson Wentz, I said this. I'm on record in a ton of places. You could not have Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz on the same team, regardless of who the general manager was. I really believe that the source of Howie's problem created such a fracture between Doug and Carson. It was unfixable. So it would have either been Howie and Doug gone and a whole new management and coaching staff in, or it would have been Howie gone and Carson traded and Doug got to try with Jalen Hurts. That's how I think it would have happened.
Yeah, now you know that, like, again, this isn't like a made-up, like, we're guessing scenario. The corner, I know he left in a bad way a couple years ago. What was going on is ESPN and Scandrick going and trashing, like, the whole organization. And he was a little bitter about it, and it was coming out, so it was hard to take in and really believe because we performed well that year, you know, so on and so forth. But then Malcolm Jenkins ends up going elsewhere. The Saints end up having a top defense in the league with him there as a leader, and he comes out last week and says, well, it doesn't matter because Howie Roseman's pretty much says, well, Howie Roseman's still there, so none of that really matters. Pretty much the same thing Rob Maddie said. It might even come from a conversation with Malcolm Jenkins. I don't know. If the source of the problem's still there, what they're trying to do, it seems like, is get a bunch of new young guys in there that don't know with this go. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like.
I mean, I think the logical, the obvious to us as Philly fans is that he seems like the guy that they can control like Doug was a couple of years ago. And that is horrifying, quite frankly. But then if I think about it from Jeff Lurie's standpoint, if Jeff Lurie needs Howie Roseman for the financial end of what he needs him for, and he builds the staff a different way. Is this Jeff Lurie trying to cover over as best he can the deficiencies of Howie Roseman? You know what I mean? This is like I talk about this all the time. My owner at the store I work for hates Andy Reid. Fucking hates him. Thinks that he is awful because Andy Reid left a lot of us bitter. Yeah. But you and I, while we respect Andy Reid, we all know his deficits. He's terrible in a 2-minute drill. He's awful handling timeouts. He's questionable in his decision-making sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you've got a player like Patrick fucking Mahomes, all of a sudden, bro, your deficits don't much matter no more.
Yeah.
And that is what I think Jeff Lurie is attempting to do by reinventing the wheel a little bit. I mean, I don't even know, is there anybody on this coaching staff over the age of 40? They're all fucking
No, they're all young. Yeah. They're all right around.
Maybe this is Jeff Lurie thinking, let me make a locker room full of boys that band together and want to die for each other on Sunday, and how we can make all the money work in the background. And I think that's what they're trying to do.
Think about the vets that are going to be there next year. There's only going to be a couple of them, and everybody else is pretty much new. Slay's new from Detroit. I mean,
you got to be talking about Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Lane Johnson. That's it. If Jason Kelce retires, that's it.
Yep. So there's 3 or 4 guys. Jeffrey and Jackson probably. I mean, hopefully they find a way to just everybody gets moved. But we'll see what happens with Hurts at quarterback, because it seemed like when Hurts was in there, Jeffrey was open.
Alshon could all of a sudden play. All of a sudden, the receivers got separation.
Amazing.
It's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah. So is there any teams, and I have one in mind, and it would be so difficult to make this happen, but it also makes a ton of sense. Is there any way that the Eagles just give up a bunch of assets and Carson Wentz to try and move and get Deshaun Watson, since both QBs are unhappy where they're at, it seems like?
Well, I've had that thought before, and I think about what would it take, right? So if you're talking about a team that doesn't have a quarterback, Houston has to address their quarterback situation then thereafter.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the Miami trade where you're getting number 3 in Tua, you don't have to address your quarterback.
Right.
So when I think about it like that, I say to myself, I fucking hate Tua. I think Tua is garbage, hot, steaming garbage. I know you still believe for some fucking crazy reason he's going to be a good quarterback.
Yes.
He won't. That's okay. So far I'm right. So far I'm fucking right. So
he won't. Yeah, go ahead.
If you've got 3 Tua and next year's 1 from Miami, and what would it take to go Carson? So you'd get 6, obviously, Carson and next year's 1. And if that's what it costs me, I think I go get Deshaun Watson. I have absolutely no problem with that. Yeah. I would almost prefer that than any other end.
I mean, because what other QB on the market are they going to trade for that's as talented as Carson Wentz is? Because I know there's Colin Cowherd's been talking about, why don't you hit the Raiders up and you can get Derek Carr back and at least have a decent core. I think in most NFL I know Derek Carr is good. He had a better season last year. He looks better under John Gruden. I'm not sure I would take him over Carson Wentz even after the year that Carson Wentz, because I know Carson Wentz is just more talented.
You know who Derek Carr reminds me of the world of, and I hope for him that he actually reaches this peak. He's not quite there yet, but I hope he gets there. Derek Carr reminds me of Eli Manning. Eli Manning was never, holy shit, he's a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Eli Manning was very, very good for a really long time, but not quite good enough without record-setting defenses. And if Derek Carr ever wins a championship, that's how.
Yeah. And I think, the preference for most of these guys would be, Chicago and the Colts are both great destinations because you might not have a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball, but you have coaches that seem to know how to score points and seem to know how to design offenses. And then you have great defenses. So you're going to get a lot of opportunities. So they're both those teams with Carson Wentz probably make the playoffs next year.
Bro, look at this. I probably would make the argument that Chicago has more talent on the offensive side of the football. I know you got T.Y. and you got the kid. This is on my fantasy team.
Yeah,
I can't even remember his fucking name. Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. But in Chicago, bro, you got Allen Robinson, who's just as good as T.Y. Hilton, and you got Tariq Cohen and another running back there too.
Yeah.
So I really
the offensive line in Indy is obviously more dominant.
Well, that's the appeal, bro, for Indianapolis, and I think that Carson wants there because the team is ready. That is as close as you're going to get to the 2017 Eagles of a roster that you never got the chance to take all the way. And Carson is so fucking small-minded and weak. I know that bothers the fuck out of him. That is his main problem with Philadelphia, is he wasn't the guy that led him there. And that bothers him, dude, and that's why he's too soft to be here.
Yeah, there's a lot of articles out, and it seems like Bears fans are not really interested in letting go assets for Carson Wentz.
Bears fans know how bad Nick Foles is. From the quarterback factor.
That was a trip around the world. That way he went to Jacksonville and then to Chicago, and it's like, what are you doing? So it should be an interesting draft. We have to cover the Super Bowl. Let's take a break now so that we get a couple minutes in, and then we'll talk Sixers and end on the Super Bowl.
Okay, again, prepare for me to run a train over you with facts about the Sixers.
You never have facts.
Okay, buddy, we'll see. All right, Skip. Let's fight.
All right. So Justin, when we first got on here, you asked me. You said, "Do you still want to trade Ben Simmons for a bag of chips?" Now, sometimes I just write stuff and I don't think about it. And I don't think I ever wanted to trade him for a bag of chips, but
there was a pretty long list of fucked up shit on that Facebook post.
You got the point, right? So, you're referring to a couple of the previous games that the Sixers have had over the last week.
One in particular.
We start off with, obviously, them beating the Lakers. We go to them losing to the Trailblazers.
Wrong statement. Getting blown out by the Trailblazers, who did not have C.J. McCollum or Damian Lillard.
We talked about that when I was in the car. I write that off as just a bad game, but we can talk about it. And then the third one was last night's Nets game.
Wrong thing of the Nets.
Kyrie and KD, they're two out of their three best players, and that one of the MVP candidate wasn't playing. So I'm not really impressed that they I'm impressed with the Lakers win. I think Portland was the bad game. So tell me why all of a sudden the guy that got 16, 12, and 8, right around his averages last night. I know he makes winning plays. What did he do last night that made you so crazy?
You can't keep fucking sprinkling salt of fucking bullshit without letting me talk about the fucking pile you dumped. Now I'm gonna, goddamn it. Listen.
Okay.
First of all, we agree. The Lakers win was nothing short of impressive. Toby included. That's not just Ben.
Yeah.
Toby made the shot.
Uh-huh.
Ultra impressive, okay? Here's a fact that you still won't acknowledge with your own words, that the Sixers are undefeated with their starting five in the game. Undefeated. The only team in the NBA undefeated with their starting five, okay?
Yeah.
Now, Lakers game good. Don't need to talk about it. The Portland game is the most important because how the fuck do you lose by almost 20 to the Portland Trailblazers from it? What now? Mind you, before I say this, it's not 2005, okay? With Carmelo Anthony scoring 26 points.
Yeah.
How does that happen? Then you come back to Brooklyn, where I'm not gonna sit here and say it was ultra impressive. I wish KD was there. I could give a fuck about
I do too. Yeah.
Because I feel after watching that game, they were still going to win that game. Maybe not by 20, but they would have won that game. James Harden, we agree, and we both said a couple of times, is probably the most naturally gifted scorer, maybe next to Kevin Durant. Yeah. Both of them play on the same team.
Yes.
James Harden had 26 points last night.
Uh-huh.
That's important for a couple of reasons. A, Seth Curry is playing at like 45%. He can't play defense at 100%, let alone at 45%. Danny Green, we've discussed the last couple of weeks, is just getting too slow to defend. Fast guard.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons is your X factor. The reason why this team is a championship contender today is because of what Ben Simmons provides. Now, that doesn't mean that Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine can't have the same effect in a different way. But as this roster stands, it is just as important to have Ben Simmons on that floor as it is your 30-point per night guy, Joel Embiid. Because without Ben Simmons in Doc Rivers' system, they cannot work Embiid from the inside to the outside. There's no spacing. Did you know that Ben Simmons has more assists on three-pointers than any player in basketball today? That is what he provides to this team. So not only is it the defensive holding James Harden to 26 points when it was only James Harden to score that night. Mm-hmm. Not just the defense. He is the reason your spacing is successful in their half court. So if you lose Ben Simmons and don't replace him, i.e. to injury or a rest day, that is why you lost that game, just like Joel Embiid.
Yeah, so a couple things from the game. My first thought when I rewatched it and I saw and listen, we have to talk about this too, just real quick, because we trash Kyrie a lot, but Kyrie, since he came back, is averaging like 38 points a game. He's making like 60% of his field goals. He I don't know if he can maintain it with his headspace the entire season, but let's not just write off Kyrie Irving and just say that it doesn't matter.
They lost to the Wizards.
Understood.
That's it.
My thing about last night was I'm thinking to myself, okay, Ben Simmons was really effective all over. His hands were all over the game last night. Steals, rebounds, defense.
Right, pause. Would you agree? Probably the best game of his career.
No.
He's
had better games. Yeah, okay. But it was impressive. If KD's there, Ben's on KD. And so when KD went out the other night, I think it was on, what's today? Friday, and they took him off the bench, and now he's out for a week with COVID protocols. I was actually fucking heartbroken because I knew it was coming up and they were playing the Sixers, and I really wanted to see the Nets at full strength go against the Sixers, because my thing is, if Ben Simmons' assignment is Kevin Durant, and he has to play defense on Kevin Durant, he's matching up every time KD's in the game, probably getting his rest every time KD's off the floor. That's the matchup, right? Is he as effective in all other parts of the game if he has to guard KD for 40 minutes? I don't think so. I don't.
Why? Give me one reason.
It's exhausting to guard Kevin Durant.
And would you disagree that the best athlete in this game right now, or maybe a top 3, is Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons don't get tired. He ain't Joel Embiid.
Him, Russell Westbrook, and Giannis don't ever seem to get tired. And Luka and Harden are kind of out of shape, but they don't get tired. But those other guys are athletes.
Kevin Durant is not going to wear down Ben Simmons' defense. Now, Kevin Durant might bother Ben Simmons' offense, and Ben might have a fucking terrible offensive game because Kevin Durant's
we're used to winning that way.
Yeah. I agree, which is why, again, if Kevin Durant plays last night, what does he have, 25?
30. He's averaging 30.
No, he's averaging 30 against fucking Washington.
Anybody he wants. When you average 30, it means you're scoring 30 against everybody.
And what defender has he played like Ben Simmons?
Okay, but we have to see that. Like I can't after watching Kevin Durant for a decade tell you that like Ben Simmons is all of a sudden going to be able to hold Kevin Durant to a bad field goal percentage on 25 points.
25, 26 points doesn't necessarily mean bad field goal percentage.
No, but if you go into a game and you're telling me they're playing the Nets and you told me KD scored 25 points a game for the series, I'm telling you we have a pretty good chance to win. You tell me he scores 30 points a game for the series, I'm telling you we probably lost. So there's those 5 points. It's like,
was it the difference is Ben Simmons.
I know it is. I agree with that.
That is what he provides to this team. If you lose him, the Nets rape you in the playoffs. You don't get a lead in a game if you don't have Ben Simmons on this team, unless you replace him with 35 points a game in Bradley Beal. That's your only option now. You need 29 a night Zach LaVine or 35 a night Bradley Beal, or you can't trade Ben Simmons. You can't lose what he provides without putting a massive amount of scoring behind it.
Is there any – so watching the Sixers team, knowing that the All-Star break is coming up, teams are going to start looking to make moves. The Nets need to make some kind of move just to get some depth and a little bit of defense if they can, if someone becomes available, if there's some buyouts and people want to go to some championship contenders. The Sixers are now the championship contenders in the East. Is there anything that they need to do at the deadline?
I think that you need depth in scoring, and I'm going to tell you what they really should look for is a JJ Redick, dude. They need – if JJ Redick – I
hate the move for JJ. I know everybody's talking about it. I don't like it.
Why?
Because you already have him on the team, and he's better playing – he's a better defender than JJ is.
Who?
Seth Curry.
So who's talking about trading Seth Curry for JJ Redick?
No, what I'm saying is, why do you need two of those guys on the team?
Because you need every single minute of a game. You need a guy that can catch and shoot. You don't have that right now on this team. You have Seth Curry, hard stop. Danny Green is the most streaky. Bro,
he's been good. He's been good the last.
Listen. I don't want to take away from Danny Green's last 3 games, but the 7 that preceded it weren't good, and that is who Danny Green is. And when the playoffs come, you can't rely on Danny Green if he's playing this way. Right. Mm-hmm. So if JJ Redick gets bought out, you sign him to a vet minimum in a fucking heartbeat. But if it costs you 2 second-round draft picks just to acquire him, hell yeah, I'm here for that.
I think it's if I have to give up seconds, I don't really care that much. I'm just not. He's a couple years removed. He's a couple years older than when he was here. I think he's 35 or 36, if I'm not mistaken. 35, if I'm not mistaken.
All he has to do is catch the ball and shoot, dog.
I know he's but he doesn't give you anything on defense still, and he has a big contract. I don't know how they can really make the move.
He gets bought out, and you sign him to a minimum.
Yeah, that would be the only way. Yeah.
Or because Josh Harris now has a team that's probably worth north of $2 billion. You just go over you pay the luxury, dog. Like, what the fuck do you think Golden State did for 5 years that won 3 championships?
Yeah, they got a shot to win this year. They got a shot to win. Speaking of which, still don't think anybody's beating the Lakers. Last night they had a tough game in Detroit. Nobody's going to talk about it because we only talk about it when LeBron misses the shots, not when he makes it. Made 2 3-pointers in the last minute in overtime to put the game away. Lakers ended up winning the game. He hasn't missed a game yet, I don't think.
Here's I gotta say this. I gotta inject this, and you know that I am far from a LeBron hater. I am a LeBron defender. We're not talking about it because it was fucking Detroit.
Yeah, of course.
Why does that Laker team need overtime against fucking Detroit? Somebody needs to explain that to me because I know it wasn't Blake Griffin. I know it wasn't. I don't even know who the fuck else plays on that team right now.
Yeah,
that's the reason
I think Blake and Derrick Rose have actually both been out for the most part. The
reason why it's not national news is because it's embarrassing that LeBron needed to do that to win this game.
In double OT.
With that being said, do you really believe that a fully healthy 76ers team does not match up tremendously with the LA Lakers?
So watching Embiid last night, and I know everybody was high on Simmons after the game.
He had a good game.
He was playing DeAndre Jordan. I wanted to see that because DeAndre Jordan's somewhat as big of a frame, but not quite who he used to be, Yeah. So Joel Embiid inside the free throw line is automatic, and his shot's almost impossible to block. His jumper I'm talking about. I'm not talking about his post moves or him being dominant inside. The little shimmy that he had right inside the free throw line.
A little fallback.
He did that to DeAndre Jordan last night. about 6 or 7 times. And DeAndre Jordan couldn't do anything. It looked like he was, it looked like he was playing beer pong. Like he was just right into the. So we have to remember the most important matchup in a Lakers-Sixers series is not really Ben Simmons guarding LeBron or somebody trying to
Anthony Davis and Joel
Embiid. And right now, the Lakers are still winning a lot of games, but Anthony Davis isn't playing like Anthony Davis, and he needs to play like Anthony Davis if they want to win a championship. Now, Montrezl Harrell's there, Schroeder's there.
Montrezl Harrell's fucking 6'7", dog. What are you talking about?
No, I'm not talking about guarding them. I'm talking about they still have guys that can get the job done if Anthony Davis isn't scoring. So he's giving you the same thing on defense, but he's not scoring. And Joel, I think, got 30 or 40 pounds on Anthony Davis.
Yeah, Joel's a big motherfucker, dog.
Yeah, but I'm not.
Well, we found out last year, remember, when they made them re-measure because everybody was lying. Anthony Davis is only 6'10".
Yeah.
Joel Embiid's a legitimate 7'2".
DeAndre Jordan, his whole career has been listed as like 7'1", and Joel is noticeably bigger.
DeAndre Jordan's another one, 6'10".
DeAndre Jordan is 7 foot, then Joel Embiid's 7'4".
Joel Embiid's a new fucking bowl.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up. We got the Super Bowl today.
Yeah. Now I have one question to start off, Ron. I want to get it out of the way. We are on record, I think, the last 2 weeks, and probably all 4 of the last shows we said. We are picking Kansas City to win. Now, we're not going to talk about spread or anything yet. I just want to know, in the last week since we've had this talk, have you decided to change your pick from the better team to the GOAT in Tampa Bay?
History betting against Tom Brady for me has not been good. But early in his career, history for me betting against the Chiefs blowing teams out also hasn't been good. The Bucs, in my opinion, match up better at every single position except for QB and tight end. They have the better unit. But I think the coaching mismatch is so large that I can't pick the Bucs. I think it's actually not going to be close. I think that the score is going to look like it's close once it comes down to the end of the game. You're going to see garbage time TDs by Tampa Bay. I think Kansas City blows them out.
So I have a prediction. I have a prediction of score in this game. I believe that come halftime, when The Weeknd, who apparently paid $7 million to get the fucking halftime show, I don't know why, but fuck.
Because it's going to be the highest rated Super Bowl of all time?
Probably, because everybody's home.
Uh-huh.
So by the time The Weeknd steps up to the microphone, I see a 14-10 Tampa Bay lead. Because I think Tampa Bay's defense is going to show up early, and they're going to show up fucking hard. But if we've learned anything about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes over the course of the last year and a half, none of us forget, in their run to the Super Bowl, the first 2 games of the playoffs, they were down 21 points. They adjust. What do we complain about Andy, bro? Poor clock management, can't fucking adjust. What does he do now that he's got Patrick Mahomes? Wonderful clock management, adjusts on a fucking dime.
He doesn't call timeouts with 13 minutes left in the third quarter.
So I genuinely believe we're going to see a 14-10 halftime score. Okay. And then when the third quarter starts, I don't necessarily think it matters if Kansas City has the ball. But by the end of the game, I think you're going to see a 31-17 final for Kansas City.
Something like that, yeah.
I think that they are going to – Tom Brady everybody needs to understand, Bruce Arians is a terrible head coach. Tom Brady knows it. I think Tampa Bay fans know it, to be real with you. They know that that's not the guy leading this team on Sunday during a live game. Tom Brady is basically the quarterback and the head coach all at the same fucking time. Tom Brady is going to come in ready. Tampa Bay is going to look like the New England Patriots of the mid 2000s.
They're at home. They're at home.
Right away, they're going to look like it. And when Kansas City gets an opportunity to sit down as a team and they can talk out what they've seen and make their adjustments, I think the second half is going to be entirely different. I think you're going to see Tyrann Mathieu flying the fuck around the secondary. You're going to see Tom Brady get fucking his teeth kicked in a couple times. The defense will step up their aggression, and Patrick Mahomes will do what Patrick Mahomes does, and that is make fucking plays.
So here's the X factor, right? So everybody all week has been talking about the Bucs defense and if they can contain the Chiefs offense. Now, there's a lot of things going for them. The Chiefs have 2 offensive linemen out. Their center was on a COVID list. I think he's actually going to end up playing, but he was on there up until I think yesterday. So you were down 3 in prep almost and 2 for the game. So everything looks like it can kind of fall Tampa Bay's way. But nobody's talking about Kansas City's defense. And
we're not going to – I want to say this real fast before you continue. I won't say they're comparable. But they're not as far apart as people want to make.
No, they're not, because Chris Jones and Frank Clark are going to be coming at you on the defensive line all day, and you have a true leader in the secondary in Tyrann Mathieu. And he makes big plays, and he's around the ball all the time.
Yes, he is.
So there could be a turning point in this game, because the problem the Bucs are going to have is not that their defense isn't good, is that there's one guy on the field that sees and knows how to dictate a pocket and can scramble, which Tom Brady can't do. He's a statue in the pocket. He can dictate it, but he can't scramble. And then you have another guy on the Chiefs offense that just is faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
So we can talk about and we've been talking about other teams' defense.
And listen, bro, an X factor I think too is Tom Brady does not have a deep ball anymore. That is a huge factor to keep in mind. Tom Brady has to rely on Antonio Brown's elusiveness on an 18-yard slant to get 40 yards. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes could be on his 5-yard line and throw a touchdown in the end zone to Tyreek Hill. There is a fucking difference in these players, bro.
You can stretch the field.
20. Yo, I saw something fucking wild about this game last week. I meant to tell you, and I forgot about it until right now. When Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
That is fucking wild to hear out loud.
He's been playing QB at a very high level for a very long time.
For a very long time.
Yeah. So the Chiefs defense, I actually think aren't really in that bad of a position. I think they can. The problem for Tampa Bay, again, is can they score 30, 35 points? And I don't
say a top 12 or 13 defense.
And the Chiefs can develop a game plan defensively around the fact that they don't think the Bucs can do it.
Bro, I'm going to tell you, has to be. If you're Kansas City, we've talked about this the last 2 weeks, you and me, bro. Kansas City in the regular season, it's like LeBron James. Kansas City is LeBron James. In the regular season, they take care of business and they look good doing it. But you're always left wanting a little bit. There's no 35-10 blowouts. And then as soon as the playoffs came, what happened, bro? Kansas City looked at each other and went, oh, shit, we're to the games that matter. Let's go, guys. And fucked up everything in their path, including Josh Allen, who had, who I don't even know that it's arguable, had a better season than Patrick Mahomes did as a quarterback.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, they just turned up to another gear, dude. And this is why I don't think it's close, bro. I am 100% with you. I know that there's, I think it's one of the odds booster lines I heard on the radio yesterday was 6.5. I'd probably lay it if the odds were high enough. Like, I really believe that Kansas City is going to take over this game.
Yeah. So 58% of the betting public is on the Chiefs, but it seems like the larger bets coming in from high rollers and big gamblers is going on to Tampa Bay. I don't blame them. There's also we do have to take into account. I know people are saying like you played without fans most of the year, and there's going to be some fans at this game, but you have to imagine sitting in Tampa Bay over the last 2 weeks and just feeling the energy of the city. You also have to remember they have COVID protocols, but Florida's not locked down the way a lot of the North is and the West is. I saw a couple of videos down there.
Look,
them motherfuckers are yeah, they don't give a shit. So there's a lot going on in Tampa Bay, and the team is able to feed off that. And like they can feel that in the city. When you were walking around Philadelphia the week before the Super Bowl, if you were just sitting there and you're the Eagles, whether there was going to be fans in the stands or not, you knew the Eagles were in a Super Bowl that week and everybody was fucking live. It was live. So they're going to come in with a lot of adrenaline. We also have to remember, this is another big thing, Justin. And this is why I think I'm so confident in Kansas City. I know Tom Brady's been there before. And I know JPP's been there before, but nobody else on that team has. So Mike Evans hasn't even been – they haven't been to the playoffs or won a game in the playoffs yet.
Bro, Chris Godwin is opening up his fucking iPhone in the morning and seeing 7 stories about where he's most likely to sign 3 days before the Super Bowl. There's a lot of fucking pressure on these kids down there, bro. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, and
KC experience is a huge advantage for KC.
Yeah, I do too, and I think it's a coaching mismatch. I think it's a QB mismatch. The whole team was just there last year. The whole defense pretty much stayed together and played. They play well together. So all they have to really do is like, hey, we just can't let up any deep passes. We have to tackle. We have to gang tackle. If Tom Brady wants to dink and dunk and try to score touchdowns that way all day, good luck. Don't make any mistakes, because it's going to be a long day if you throw in an interception or two. Their performance last week or 2 weeks ago with 3 interceptions, you're not beating Kansas City if you throw 3 interceptions this week.
No, but you know what will happen? You might be able to intercept Patrick Mahomes 3 times, but he's still going to win the fucking game.
Exactly.
That's just – they are – dude, the level of talent disparity between Kansas City and the rest of football is almost unbelievable. It's like the Lakers were last year.
Yeah, and like Golden State was.
Nobody in a fucking breath to the Lakers, bro.
Yeah.
It's just, and I really believe, dude, listen, I know why, especially in this city. I know why we hate Andy. I have a t-shirt too, guys. I'm a part of the club. I've got my reasons. But listen, man, Patrick Mahomes is too fucking good. Like, Rich Kotite could win with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Jason Garrett would have had 2 with Patrick Mahomes. He's just that good of a player. And just appreciate, dude, because I hope, regardless of outcome, I hope Tom Brady retires at the end of this year.
He's not.
I know he's not. I just don't want him to – I don't want him to go out like Brett Favre, bro. Like, he's the GOAT. He can't tarnish it, but I don't want to see it. Like, I just don't even want to watch it.
He's already talking about preparing for next year, so
I hope he's fucking gassing everybody up so they buy tickets. Appreciate in this game today, appreciate that you have the greatest of all time against the greatest alive right now, because that's what Patrick Mahomes is. He's the best playing today. And just you are going to see strategy and experience versus raw talent and ability. Yeah. And it's very fucking rare on the biggest stage do we get that, right?
When's the last time?
Go ahead.
When's the last time let's do this. So the last time that I saw the GOAT chess player controls the whole field versus the team that was just better at almost everything was LeBron anytime he played Golden State.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's what this is. And the reason people are betting on Tampa Bay is because – yeah, Golden State whooped his ass for a couple years, especially when KD came, but he got one.
Yeah.
And he got one in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So he had his guys. The talent disparity was huge, and he found a way to win one,
And I think that is why Tampa Bay laid the risk down that they did. They knew they had to replace Jameis Winston. So they were like, do we sell out now, get bad for a couple of years, draft a quarterback, or Tom wants to live on a beach? And maybe he's got enough gas in the tank with all these kids before we start losing them because we don't have the money. Maybe we win ourselves something.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you.
Historically bad franchise. I will who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for Andy, man. And listen, I hate to say that because I know we're from Philly, bro. We're big facts for the PH because we're Philly. And I know I'm going to get fucking roasted for saying that. I'm rooting for Andy, not because I'm a fucking fanboy of him like some of our favorite radio hosts, but I'm also not the guy that hates him just because he didn't win here. Because I saw with my own 2 eyes the limitations of Donovan McNabb and Brian Westbrook and the shit that we went through. I saw it happen.
Yeah.
And Jeff Lurie didn't spend money back then, guys. Like, I remember who we've let go over fucking contract disputes, which would never happen today. Alshon just got $20 million a couple years ago. That Jeff Lurie signed Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
We went through some bad things, and it's not just Andy's fault. And Andy was bad, and he could have learned sooner, and maybe he would have brought us a championship. But we cannot knock him for what he's accomplished. I mean, he will. I believe, bro, as long as he wants to, and as long as Patrick Mahomes stays Patrick Mahomes, if they see each other's careers through, Andy Reid will be regarded as the greatest coach of all time. Because they're probably going to win 4 or 5 of them together if they stay together for the next 12 years. That's how good they are. So I'm rooting for Andy.
And Tampa Bay has to also keep in mind, because they will lose Chris Godwin next year.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Brown.
I think they lose Godwin because they want to keep Brown. Maybe,
because he's going to be cheaper.
Yep.
Defense, for the most part, is coming back. But Godwin's a pretty big part of that offense. Yes, and this is an interesting window for them to win one, because the offense just isn't going to be quite as good without Godwin next year. It's just the bottom line. He's a really good receiver. And it also, when you just put teams together in 1 year and get to a championship that year, it's rare when it like works out in the first year. Like, you remember LeBron going to Miami and it not working out the first year.
Yep.
And so sometimes those teams really have to build the continuity. And there are times, even throughout the playoffs, that Tampa Bay is just not quite on the same page, but they figure out a way to win because they just have so much talent. And I don't think going into Kansas City, you cannot be on the same page at any point during the game. And they have to play a perfect football game, and Kansas City doesn't. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. And I think that, again, man, LeBron proved it. You can overcome less talent. It does happen. It's rare, but it does happen because strategy can outwork talent.
Especially
sometimes.
In football.
Right. Sometimes. And I think that they have built the best possible roster to utilize that strategy, but I think that this Goliath is just a little bit too big for David DeSlay. That's what I think it comes down to. I think that Tampa Bay's very good, but I think that there was probably a couple other teams that I would have said had a better shot at beating Kansas City, like Buffalo, and they got handled.
Yeah,
so
right.
I don't think that Tampa Bay, I don't think Tom Brady's experience is enough to overcome the talent and the ability that exists in Kansas City.
It's a really good point, because you start to want to see really great teams lose at some point, and we keep building up these matchups that Kansas City's going into. Like, well, there's 10 reasons I can tell you right now why this team's going to be Kansas City, and it just doesn't happen. We just look dumb every week when we talk about it. So
now they can't fucking win against the spread because they're too good to have a low number and not good enough to blow people out by 14 points 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But they win the games, bro. It's the safest money line bet almost every week.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. Any closing points, Just?
So yeah, I mean, Tom Brady is probably going to lose. It's gonna suck because I really thought that storyline would have been cool in Tampa Bay, but I just think Kansas City is too good. Ben Simmons is the second most important player on this roster, and until you're ready to admit it, I don't think I want to hear your opinion on
I don't think I ever said he wasn't the second most important player.
I want to shout out real fast Tobias Harris, dude. 21, 12, and 6 was a quiet, impressive game. I would have liked to have seen his line in Ben's reverse. I'd have liked to seen Ben get to 21, but as long as the points are coming.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is still the MVP, guys. Maybe one of these weeks I can come on here and tell you someone else is taking over, but not yet. It's still Joe. Sixers are doing well, dude. And go Andy Reid, man. Let's let Andy win back-to-back. One of the few things that he can accomplish that not many have. And have a good Super Bowl. Stay fucking safe. Don't go into rooms with 60 people without fucking masks on. Assholes. We're trying to get over this shit. And get your fucking vaccine if you can.
Gonna Uber home later, Justin, or leave my car, or lose my car somewhere. Watching the Super Bowl on vacation, and I am gonna go to the gym and immediately start drinking afterwards. Tobias Harris is an all-star this year, and I want to start letting people know, and Sixers fans know, that they should really be getting on and trying to vote in Tobias Harris. he has improved his mindset this year, and it's the biggest difference in his play. I'm enjoying watching it. I would still agree with you. I've never tried to combat that Ben Simmons wasn't the second most important player. I just wanted us to get more out of our second most important player on the offensive side.
And Tobias Harris being an all-star is big facts, though.
That's
sure. I'm with you.
So we'll see you guys on Tuesday to discuss the Super Bowl, and follow us all streaming platforms at Big Facts with a PH. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great time watching the Super Bowl and stay safe.
Yeah.